Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who always pisses in the shower. It's like my favorite thing to do after watching MMA, of course. But anyway, speaking of MMA, I'm here to talk about the main event of the evening, Sean Strickland versus Nassourdine Imavov. Let me thank Sean Strickland at the top of this video. As a fight fan, you know, I was really looking forward to Damon Jackson versus Dan Ige. If you saw my video, I did that, thinking about that fight. But still, I don't think it's a worthy main event, despite Dan Ige having headlined UFC events, even somewhat recently. But this is a worthy main event, and it's awesome that Sean Strickland has stepped up for himself and the company, and I hope it works out for him. I pretty much always root for the short notice guy, but Sean Strickland's a guy who I think deserves a break after that Jared Cannonier fight. Razor thin fight. I can't call it a robbery, but yeah, I thought he won. Either way, like I said after the fight, that could be 4-1 for either fighter, and I wouldn't complain. But let's get into it. Sean Strickland is 22-5, I think. His wins are 10 via TKO, 4 via submission, and 11 via decision. And his losses, all 5 of them, are inside the UFC. He lost 2 knockouts. He lost twice via knockout, once to Alex Pereira last year, the left hook from hell. And he also lost to Oleski Dos Santos, who hit him with a spinning back kick, hook kick, wheel kick, whatever the fuck. I don't know my kicks. I think I said this a month ago when he fought Cannonier. But anyway, Sean Strickland, he lost 3 decisions to Ponzinibbio Usman, Kamaru Usman, of course, and Jared Cannonier in his last fight. So he's only lost to really good fighters, really tough to get out of there, and his primary strengths are his boxing, his hands, and his cardio, which, complements his boxing by giving him the, energy to throw volume. The thing is, Sean Strickland doesn't mix things up too well. He's not known for his kicking. Probably could have won, that decision, at least against Cannonier, with kicks, mixing shit up. But he is still a long fighter. He's a guy that fights long. Everything is a straight punch. He's pretty basic, but basic shit works, and it's tough to navigate. The jabs and the straights work for a reason. And Sean Strickland will start attaching harder strikes at the end of his combinations, especially when he smells blood in the water, so to speak, or, thinks his opponent might be slowing down. So he'll mix in the power shots at the end of his combinations, but still, he doesn't throw enough kicks. It's basically his hands and his cardio. Those are his assets. And Imavov, he's got a record of what? I don't know. It's like 10-3 or 15-3 or something in between there. Let's call it 12-3. 12.5-3. All right. But anyway, his 3 losses are, one of them's inside the UFC, and I've only seen that fight. I tried to look for his other fights, wasn't able to find him. He lost his first fight, though, via submission, a guillotine choke to a solid regional European fighter with a good record. I think at the time of the loss, the guy had a record of 7-2, and it was Imavov's first professional fight. So, that's a tough tall order for him, and he got guillotined. And then later on, he lost a decision, another one that I haven't seen, but to a solid, I think, Polish fighter, Michał Michalski. Or Michalski. I don't fucking know. Anyway, the one loss I have seen was to Philip Hawes, and it's one of the few fights in which we've seen vulnerabilities from Imavov. He was smothered against the cage for 2 rounds, largely. That's how he lost those first 2 rounds. And then in round 3, he came alive and almost made the fight a draw. He actually did on one judge's scorecard by securing a 10-8 round. But he didn't do enough to secure it on 2 rounds, and he lost the decision. Still, it was a good performance from him. He was the last man standing, so to speak. And despite being ground out against the cage for 2 rounds, I feel like certainly now anyway, I would pick him to beat Philip Hawes in a rematch. Or Phil Hawes, whatever. But he showed vulnerability in his last fight for the exact opposite reason against Joaquin Buckley. This one was the exact opposite. Imavov did what Phil Hawes did and pretty much won the first 2 rounds and ground Buckley down on the ground, almost rear naked choked him in round 2, was working him over. And then in round three, he let Buckley back into the fight. And I'm not sure if it wasn't really Buckley taking over. It was a cardio issue. That's what it seemed to be for me. Imavov was in survival mode, meaning he still threw and he was moving around and whatever, but it was all just him minimizing his output so he could last the 5 minutes. He was, he had his hands down, which I know maybe that's like a tactic for him to throw punches from better angles or whatever, but not a good look against a deadly guy like Buckley. And he was looking at the clock, and just overall, he was visibly tired, and it wasn't a good look for him. And that's the last time we've seen him. So that's our last impression. And yeah, that's, the last impression. It brings up a recency bias, as they call it. And yeah, I'm a victim of that. I've got recency bias here. I don't trust his cardio, Imavov. He's looked good going 3 rounds against Jordan Williams, which I'm amazed he didn't put him away. Jordan Williams and Philip Hawes going 15 minutes with those guys. And Imavov's someone I consider to be dangerous. So it's weird that he didn't put either one of those guys away, but he didn't. And still, in the Jordan Williams fight, he fought very hard for 15 minutes. Although there were like 10 breaks for fucking horse shit and injuries and eye pokes and whatever. But, really the cardio doubts come from that one fight against Joaquin Buckley. But it was his last performance. He is still a relatively younger fighter. And it's something I have to look to, especially going against a guy whose cardio is a strength. He is a bona fide point fighter. I think it could work against him. Sean Strickland is 11-3 after that decision loss to Jared Cannonier, so he could easily be 12-2. Regardless, he is a bona fide point fighter. That's a great decision record. I don't know if I said that before, but that's his record in decisions, 11-3. Nassourdine Imavov in decisions, I believe he's 3-2. So, and Sean Strickland, of course, a good portion of his decision wins are at the UFC level. He's definitely the better point fighter. And Strickland, we've seen fight 5 rounds hard against Cannonier, Uriah Hall, Jack Hermanson. So, despite the fight being held at 205 and him taking the fight on short notice, I have it in my head Strickland's going to be the better fighter down the stretch. And because of that, my prediction is he wins a decision. I can't bet on it. Well, I can, and I probably will once I get drunk, but I'm not betting on it now because my heart's not into it, and there are too many different factors. And also, I really do like what I see from Imavov. If he doesn't have cardio issues, I think he does win this fight because he is he's a more versatile striker than Sean Strickland. He is. I'm not even considering the grappling, by the way, which is foolish of me, but it would be awesome if this fight, hit the mat with either guy insisting on it. I think it would be really interesting. But I think defensively, they're both good enough to stifle any offensive grappling from the other one. So largely this will be held on the feet. And on the feet, Imavov, I think he's the more versatile striker. And I think he's more dangerous too. He's, got more power. Even though he wasn't able to put away Jordan Williams and Philip Hawes, he is a long guy who doesn't fight long like Sean Strickland. He's not going to hide behind the jab and the straight punches. He likes to sit down in the pocket and throw those hooks. And he's got a mean left hook and a mean right hand as well. I like his striking. I think he makes his length work for him as a power striker, and that's what he's intent on. But against Sean Strickland, I don't think he's going to have too many opportunities. If he cracks a chin, he cracks a chin. But I'm betting Sean Strickland's chin holds up. And overall, he wins the point by battle down the stretch. Just historically having better cardio, knowing how to manage his energy. Sean Strickland, I don't know the last time I've seen him look the way Imavov looked in round 3 against Buckley. And look, that's the last thing Imavov has done in the octagon was survive against Buckley in round 3. So I'm sure he stepped out of the octagon and he and his team said, yeah, we need to work on our cardio. That is first and foremost what we need to do. So there is that. But still, going against a guy who is a bona fide decision fighter and one of the best in the UFC in a 5-round fight, despite all the horse shit and different, wrinkles to this one, I'm thinking it's Sean Strickland's fight over the course of 5 rounds. The straight punches win out, and I'm thinking the majority of the rounds he wins are, later on. So we'll see what happens. Could go either way. I'm not going to bet on it until the prop bets come out, then I'll get drunk and start betting on shit I have no reason to bet on. Yeah, 5th round submission. But yeah, the prediction is Sean Strickland wins a decision. And a lot of that is me hoping for it, because again, I'm behind the guy for taking the fight on short notice. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos and comment below, letting me know whatever.